Yo, what's going on, Raider Nation? Now that we're about to enter the draft, now that we know our salary cap number, let's go ahead and check out who are the top 10 best Raiders players on the team right now. Let's get right into it. Hey, are you subscribed? Most of my viewers are actually not subscribed to my channel. Go ahead and click that red subscribe button and it will really help this channel out. Thanks. So number 10 on my list for the top Raiders players right now is none other than left tackle Kolton Miller, 6'8", 309 pounds. This will be the 5th year of his career. He is 26 years old, still a very young guy, and we have him under contract for about 4 years. Right now, fortunately, he's only counting $6.7 million against the cap, but has $31 million in dead money. Next year, he'll be making $17 million, $15 million, and then $15 million against the cap. So still a pretty good deal for a left tackle. The tackle position is becoming more and more expensive, and Kolton Miller struggled early on in his career. You could see it with these PFF passing and blocking grades. He had a 68 in 2019, a 55 in 2019 for run blocking, but it's steadily improved. Look at this past year, 84.4 pass blocking grade, 76.3 run blocking grade. Still gives up about around 30 to 40 pressures a year, but you've seen him bring that down. And the thing that I like the most about Kolton Miller is he always plays. He's never really hurt. He's always available. If you check out his snap count throughout his career, he's always been there, and he's always been a consistent anchor for us on that offensive line, which is hard. Offensive linemen go down a lot, and you almost kind of expect an injury from a lot of them. Unfortunately, that's just the way it goes. But Kolton Miller, for whatever reason, has remained healthy, and it's great to see, and I hope he'll continue to be a great left tackle for us. Number 9 on my list is Pro Bowler DENZEL PERRYMAN. Yes, made the Pro Bowl just last year for the AFC with the linebacker position. 29 years old, 5'11", 240 pounds, has actually lost some weight. I actually do not know if that weight count is accurate, because that's what we've talked about with DENZEL PERRYMAN. He's always been a good run stuffer, right? One of those thicker, slower linebackers, but could really lay a hit, right? But he's improved in coverage, and he lost a lot of weight going into this season. And there's no reason to doubt that he will continue to improve in coverage as he becomes more lean. And you see this defensive grade, 61.9, not as great as he has been in the past, but you have to take this with a grain of salt, because he played the most snaps he's ever played in a single season in his career last year. He played over almost 1,000 snaps, and he's usually only hovered around 300 to 400 snaps. And that's actually kind of amazing when you think about it, because he has 121 tackles last year and only missed 14. That's an insane number. That is a great ratio. 121 tackles, only missed 14 tackles. And look, here's a great example of this. 2019 didn't play nearly as much as last year, not even close, but missed 15 tackles. So this guy has continued to improve, and this is exactly why he is in the Pro Bowl. He's a tackling machine, and I think he can continue to be a great linebacker for the Raiders. Unfortunately for the Raiders and for Perryman, he's on the final year of his deal. We know we got him in a trade last year, and he was able to be on the team last year, and then this is the last year remaining on that contract. $1.3 million in dead money, $3 million cap hit. So if they did move on, which I highly doubt because he's very talented, you would save about $2 million. I think Perryman's here to stay. I think he'll improve in pass coverage, and I look forward to see how he works with Patrick Graham. All right, number 8 on my list is none other than the former rookie, Nate Hobbs. Yes, he had a monster season last year, undeniably talented last year, and especially at that slot position. He played pretty much 95% of his snaps in the slot. If you look at the snap count, it's insane, and hopefully he'll continue to do that. You have heard word from Josh McDaniels that he will compete at every corner spot, even on the outside, but I still think at the end of the day, this guy is going to be in the slot. This is where he does best. You see that 54 tackles last year, 12 of them missed. That's really good for a defensive back. Obviously, it's not going to be good as DENZEL PERRYMAN, but that's great for a defensive back. 6 feet, 195 pounds, still very, very young, 22 years old. What a young guy. Man, I was a totally different person back then. 78.4 defensive grade, 75.8 coverage grade. And when you look through the first half of the season, he was always top 5 in so many grading categories for cornerbacks, and he ended up being the highest graded coverage rookie cornerback last year. 1 interception, 2 pass breakups, and even 9 pressures, 9 times that he blitzed and pressured the quarterback last year. So that just shows the array of talents that Nate Hobbs has, and hopefully Patrick Graham can continue to get more out of him, because you're gonna want this guy to be on a star on your team, not only because he's very talented, but because he's cheap. I mean, we picked him up in the 5th round in the draft, and he has 3 years remaining on his contract, only makes $900,000 against the cap this year with $227,000 in dead money. That's a steal. That's insanely cheap. This guy, once this deal comes up, is probably going to be looking for a payday, right? If he continues to play how he played last year, he could be a really talented cornerback in the NFL, and that's why I have him ranked number 8 here on this list. Okay, now number 7. Number 7 is none other than Josh Jacobs. Sometimes we forget we have Josh Jacobs. We forget he's a Pro Bowler. We forget how talented he is. I know a lot of people try to say he has problems with fumbles, but you know, honestly, he didn't really have many fumbles last year, just 2, but the fumbles that he does have stand out. And I understand the frustration, but this guy is still very talented, still very young, 24 years old. This is going to be his 4th year in the NFL, 5'10", 219 pounds. Let me tell you something about this stat, MTF, missed tackles forced. This is him causing people to miss tackling him. He had 60 last year. That's insane. Every single year, he is top 3 in this category. In 2019, there was only one person who had more missed tackles forced than Josh Jacobs, and that was Derrick Henry. Last year, it was one other player in Javonte Williams from the Denver Broncos who had more missed tackles forced than Josh Jacobs. That's insane. Like, I've said this before. It does not matter how fast you are if people cannot tackle you. That's exactly what Josh Jacobs is, and he did really well towards the end of last year. If we can keep him healthy, if we can keep him and utilize him in the playoffs, in that deep stretch like we did last year, it can pay off for us. And even though last year he wasn't 100% all the time, still almost picked up 1,000 yards, got 9 touchdowns, and that's just production that you rarely see from running backs so consistently, despite the fact that they are battling with injuries. So I think we shouldn't sleep on Josh Jacobs. He's still one of the better players at his position. $3.7 million cap hit, dead money also offsets that. If we do exercise his 5th year option May 2nd, this guy will probably be about $8 or $9 million, and I'm still going to keep this guy as my 7th best player on the Raiders right now. All right, I'm going to take a look at my 6th best player. We're going to go with Hunter Renfrow, the Pro Bowler. We have a lot of Pro Bowlers on this team. You know, we forget about that. You got PERRYMAN, former Pro Bowlers like Jacobs, then you got Renfrow here, just made the Pro Bowl last year, and there's no question that this guy is a very talented player at his position. The question really is with Hunter Renfrow, can he be versatile? Can he be used on the outside occasionally? Not really. The lion's share of his snaps are still in the slot, but it's very talented and it has paid off, and he has steadily improved in his career. 2019, he had 49 receptions, 4 TDs with a 75.5 offensive PFF grade. Keep in mind though, in 2019, he broke his wrists during the year. I believe it was in the Jets game, and then continued to play. And so even though he was banged up, he was still able to produce at a high level. And especially at that point in that season, we did not have many wide receivers available towards the end of 2019. No Tyrell Williams. You've seen his numbers steadily improve. 103 receptions, the biggest year of his career last year. 26 years old, still a young guy, 5'10", 184 pounds. Size, athleticism has not been an issue for Hunter Renfrow, despite what the haters have said about him. And he's proven everybody wrong. 9 TDs last year as well. Took a step back last year in my opinion, but Darren Waller was more available, so you naturally saw him have less targets. Plus, we wanted to try to get Brian Edwards and Henry Ruggs involved and Nelson Aguilar back then. This guy's going to make $2.6 million against the cap. This year, it's going to be his highest amount so far. We know we had him as a steal, 5th round pick, $78,000 in dead money. We're going to have to extend Hunter Renfrow. This is the final year of his contract, and he's going to deserve every penny of it after making the Pro Bowl, and that's why he's my 6th best player on the roster. All right, this guy's going to be my 5th best player, and it's none other than Darren Waller, because even though he took a step backwards last year due to the injury, 68.2 offensive grade, 2 TDs, 55 receptions, really just crumbs compared to the production that he's had in his career. This guy is still 29 years old, drafted in 2015, has tons of experience, 6'6", 255 pounds. With that speed, you just don't see athletes like that. You just don't see tight ends that tall, that huge, and also that fast at the same time. And that's why Darren Waller has picked up over 100 receptions in his career in 2020, 9 TDs, and also 90 with 3 TDs in 2019. This guy is still a physical freak, and this guy is still every bit as talented as he was in 2019 and 2020. He was just set back by injuries. And to be quite frank, there's rumors that maybe Waller didn't rush himself back to help the Raiders towards the end of the playoff stretch. When you're making $6.8 million a year and you're arguably the best, if not the 2nd best tight end in the NFL, you're going to be cautious. You're going to be cautious, and you have to understand that these players have to look out for themselves at the same time. So if a season's a wash because your coach has been assassinated by Roger Goodell in the NFL, maybe you don't risk coming back sometimes. That's all I'm going to say, all right? Either way, this guy is still going to be my 5th best player on the Raiders. If he bounces back and has production similar to 2019, and he might even do better. He might even do better now that we have Devontae Adams. So, I don't know. I still have faith in Darren Waller. He has 2 years remaining on his contract. He'll be making $7 million against the cap next year, and this is a steal. I mean, if we can keep him at this amount, it'd be amazing. I mean, this guy should be getting paid about $60 million a year, and I know for some reason, I don't know, Raiders fans get upset about that reality, but your players should get the compensation they deserve. That's just all I'm saying, and the reality is he is worth way more than $6.8 million, and there's absolutely no reason why this guy should not be considered one of the 5 best players on this team, and that's why I have Darren Waller ranked as the 5th best player. All right, moving on to my 4th best player, we got Chandler Jones, the new addition. This was a little difficult for me. I had some questions as to how high I wanted to rank him, and I didn't want to have favoritism just because he's new, not put him that high, but this guy is my 4th best player. He just has the long resume, has the career of being an elite pass rusher, and the numbers back it up. The only thing that you can hold against Chandler Jones is the fact that 2020 he was injured and he didn't have that great of a year, 10 pressures, 1 sack, but he totally bounced back in 2021, had a monster year with 11 sacks, 47 pressures, was able to get 75 pressures in 2019. We're going to see how well this guy could still produce. Defensive grade hasn't been there lately. The run grade hasn't been there as well, but he still has great size, 6'5", 265 pounds, over a decade of NFL experience. And I think with somebody like MAXX CROSBY on the other side of him, who in my opinion right now is much better than JJ Watt in his career, Chandler Jones had to, share the load with JJ Watt, and I would much rather share the load with MAXX CROSBY. So hopefully Chandler Jones could be freed up and have even more production than Unique Ngakoue. I mean, this is what this coaching staff thought. This coaching staff said, hey, we have Chandler Jones, so Unique Ngakoue is redundant. We think we can get more production with Chandler Jones than Unique Ngakoue. And keep in mind, Unique Ngakoue had 8 sacks last year, so there's no reason why Chandler Jones can't get that. And we're paying him like an elite pass rusher. $34 million in dead money, a 3-year deal worth $51 million. He's going to count $7.8 million against the cap, but that goes up next year. Fortunately, a lot of these deals, the cap number is low this year. Next year, it's going to go up a significant amount. So hopefully Chandler Jones is able to fill on his promise, and hopefully he can prove the haters wrong, because people have said that this is one of the worst free agent signings, that we overpaid for Chandler Jones. But let me tell you something. He's the same age as Khalil Mack. He's like 1 year older, so I don't want to hear people say this guy's an aging pass rusher, but not say the same thing about Khalil Mack. So I'm rooting for Chandler Jones. That's why he's my 4th best player on this list. All right, now let's take a look at my 3rd best player on this list. We're going to go with MAXX CROSBY. Obviously, this guy, he's a homegrown talent. We love Max. We know how productive he has been, especially last year, 101 pressures. And look, that's just insane. 101 pressures compared to somebody like Chandler Jones. He had double the pressures than Chandler Jones, and he has someone like Unique Ngakoue on the other side. Didn't really have elite defensive tackles helping him out, but he was still able to get that production. MAXX CROSBY has just gone off and just had an insane year. Arguably the best pass rusher, arguably the best defensive player in the NFL. That is why this guy ended up getting Aaron Donald money, $94 million, 4 years, only 6.6 against the cap this year. Next year it goes up a lot. I believe $23 million, $16.7 million in dead money right now. But we have to remember 2019, a lot of people still doubted MAXX CROSBY. A lot of people said, well, he has 11 sacks, but not that many pressures. Most of his sacks, he was lucky. They were coverage sacks. That's why he still had a low defensive grade. In 2020, he toughed it out and played with a partially torn labrum. That's why he has a horrible defensive grade for the 2020 season. 48 pressures, though, and 7 sacks, while significantly injured and still playing. That's actually crazy that he played with that injury and was able to recover in the offseason and have one of the greatest seasons of any pass rusher in the past 5 years. Straight up, there's no doubt about that. MAXX CROSBY is worth every single penny, and that is why the 24-year-old pass rusher is the 3rd best player on the Las Vegas Raiders. All right, now number 2, this is easy for me. You guys know who these people are. It's Derek freaking Carr. I almost put this guy number 1 just to trigger all the anti-Carr people, but I'm going to put him number 2. 6'3", 215 pounds. It's a 31-year-old quarterback, 8 years, been the leader on this team. These stats are great stats, but these stats don't quantify the kind of leadership that Derek Carr brings to this team, the kind of attitude that he brings to this team, the swagger, the clutch performances. I was checking out his overtime stats during the Chargers game that got us into the playoffs last year. He's 6-0 in overtime when given a possession. If you just give this guy a shot, he wins in overtime in clutch moments. That's why Derek Carr is one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL. And, we can even get personal in the leadership things. I mean, the Ruggs, the Gruden thing, still leading your team, still knowing the right thing to say to someone is very difficult, and it's a skill that requires a lot of intuition and instinct, and a lot of people just don't have it. Derek Carr does. I honestly think in the future, I think Derek Carr will end up being a head coach of a football team and end up being very successful in the future. $19.8 million cap hit, 0 dead money. We know an extension is looming. Josh McDaniels and Derek Carr's camp has been talking. Hopefully something gets done eventually. And I anticipate that a deal will get done before the start of the season. 4,800 yards, 76.3 offensive grade last year. Touchdown interception ratio has been the problem. Outside of 2020, it just hasn't been that good. You have to go over 30 TDs to be considered an elite quarterback in the NFL. And I root for Derek Carr, and I think he is an elite quarterback in the NFL. But until he gets that touchdown interception ratio right, until he gets 30 to 40 touchdowns a season, the rest of the league is still going to doubt him, and they're going to disrespect him. And it's unfortunate, because I think a lot of the time that has to do with how many possessions do you get? What's your field position like? How much did your defense help you out? And what are your weapons like? Do you have enough help on your side of the ball to really score touchdowns? And unfortunately for Derek Carr, we know it just hasn't been there, but this is the year where it's here. This is the year where you got Pro Bowler Hunter Renfrow, you got Pro Bowler Darren Waller, Jacobs, Devontae freaking Adams, right? And that's why this year is going to be a different year. This is going to be a year that we've never seen before. Devontae Adams, insane stats, including the playoffs in 2020. He had 20 touchdown receptions. That's just insane. And look, touchdowns are always there. You got double-digit touchdowns, right? Well, this guy needs somebody to throw the football to get more touchdowns other than Darren Waller and Renfrow. And we got the perfect guy here, 29 years old, still young, 6'1", 215 pounds, always over 100 receptions every single year. Keep in mind, this guy's contract is really good too. $8.1 million against the cap, $22 million in dead money. We still have some space to work some things out this year because of the contract of Davante Adams, because of Crosby's deal right now, because Renfrow's cheap, because Derek Carr's cheap right now. So expect a great season from my number one player on this team. And that's what's really special with this offseason and free agency, when you were able to literally grab two players and they are already top 5 on your roster. Davante Adams is the best player on the Raiders in my opinion, and Chandler Jones, I had him ranked as the 4th best player on the roster. So Dave Ziegler and Josh McDaniels went out there and I think spent their money wisely and were able to significantly upgrade their roster. These two people were just not on the roster last year, and I don't have any other person who left this team who I would have ranked that high. So hats off to Dave Ziegler, hats off to Josh McDaniels. Let me know what you guys think about my top 10 Raiders on this team right now. Let me know who you think I should have added. I have Trayvon Merring as an honorable mention. I had him ranked at 11th, but let me know who you think I should add. Let me know what you would switch around right now. Peace out. Peace out. Make sure you like this video if you watched it all the way through, and subscribe to this channel. It really helps me out. This has been WiFiWillie of the Raiders Rundown, and I hope you have a good one.